you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
One. We're rolling.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's a very calm introduction for our week. It's your host, Kemper Woodruff, as long with our other host, Mr. Zachary Sampson, and we're missing the baby Hoodlum. Yes, he is the powerful one. I forgot his tag.
Yeah, you did. Don't fuck it up next time.
Yeah, no, it's a little different. Yeah, it's a little off week.
Yeah.
I just ate a blizzard, so I'm just in bliss. You know, I had a brain freeze. But yeah, see, you know, you just got to make some shit up and roll with it. How are you doing, Zach, before we go into what's going on in my world?
Good, dude. Yeah, things are just going pretty well. I've been kind of doing a lot of things in terms of life right now and like pondering different things. But things are good.
Such as, let's hear it.
There was something this week, and I wish I could remember it. I wish I could remember what it was because it reminded me of you and your talks of finding meaning in things that are going on in your life, right? And I wish I would have wrote it down because it was a really good example of that.
Yeah.
But just things like that. So like from the last episode where you talked about like the ants and what their purpose was and the meaning behind it and things like that, I've kind of been consciously looking at things like that a little bit too. Not 24/7, but when it pops in my head, I'm like, oh, that could have more than just the surface level meaning to it, and then think about it a little bit. So that's kind of where my head's been a little bit on top of just kind of doing life shit.
How do you feel that that's like impacted you? Because I know I've had a very like wholesome past like 2 days. Like I know that's kind of like I left that as like a cliffhanger. Why my life has been wholesome. I'm actually down in Bend at my grandma's again because we're having like the first like family gathering on my dad's side of the family.
Yeah.
And we've really like never had this. Like ever. So really yeah. We've never had everybody kind of more together. So I'm meeting like my cousin named Tyler and his family with his kids and stuff and his parents, and actually like spending time with my grandpa's sisters more. And I haven't had them all like collectively together, so it's a first for me, and really been an interesting week of me kind of gathering data and trying to like learn my own family, you know, and breaking the ice and realizing there's like no ice to break. It's just kind of really like we're just a warm group of people, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what was really cool to me too is like my family's very religious, but they're also all really funny.
Yeah.
Like we're naturally, I guess, kind of a little bit of jackasses. Like, no matter how old we get, I guess, like we're just a little ornery, and it's fun.
That
So
keeps
yeah,
life fun in general.
yeah.
You know, speaking from experience, if you take yourself too seriously all the time, it's not really that fun. Makes it harder to laugh and shit. So being able to kind of like continuously, as you age, allow yourself to have fun like that is important.
And I've also noticed like it's kind of interesting because although I have like all my family around, right? I woke up and it's like I felt kind of like lonely and like sad this morning, and
Why
it's
is
so
that?
weird. Just because I was thinking about a chick, you know,
Okay.
uh, and so I was like, huh, you know, um, names will not be named just to protect the innocent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, man, I'm kind of fucked up about this right now. And it was just a weird thing to have like right on your mind when you wake up. Cause I actually had a
Yeah.
dream that I was kicking it with Snoop Dogg.
Oh
And so I
shit.
went from this really dope ass dream into like I was literally like smoking weed with Snoop Dogg after a concert. And I was getting to ask him because I did see Snoop in concert and we went to like an after party. And this was back when I was working at the dispensary and I had given his uncle Rio, rest in peace to Uncle Rio. I gave him like a whole bunch of weed for Snoop,
Wait,
right?
this is the dream.
That's real
Oh,
life.
that's real
I really,
life. Okay, you legitimately gave Snoop Dogg's uncle weed to give to Snoop. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, where's
Because
the
he was
dream at?
DJing. Yeah, and
Okay.
so that was like the real reality. But then like in my dream, I was actually finally able to like talk to him and be
Okay.
like, "Hey, bro, did you ever actually like smoke that weed that I gave you, or did you just like go to the entourage, or like what happened?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and we were just sitting there, kind of talking and smoking weed and counting money after a concert, like. And we were like somewhere in like Greece, like it looked like a pantheon or something. But we had
Yeah.
like a like ghetto plastic table that we were kind of like playing dominoes at
Yeah.
and just counting money. You know what I'm saying? So it was like kind of this awesome experience. And then I woke up and I was like, why am I like, why am I in this state? You know,
Yeah.
like off the rip. And so I've started to post things on Instagram, like kind of quotes, and then writing a prompt about it, or just giving a prompt and then kind of being a little shorter in the caption.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I've
but
been
I don't know.
something that's
That's
like in terms of like what you were talking about like posting quotes and stuff like that. I've
mm-hmm,
been following this dude. His name is Ryan Holland. He's
mm-hmm,
his name on Instagram is the Daily Stoic, and
okay,
he's blown up within the last few years. He's also an author, wrote a few books. Um, but he posts all these different quotes from all these different like Stoics and philosophers and stuff like that.
mm-hmm,
And those are the things that I post on my story a lot of the time is I'll
mm-hmm,
read those and I'll be like, "Oh shit, that's pretty dope. That's awesome. It's a good way to think about something." And then post it to my story. And I think with the invention of social media, for sure, it's made that so much easier. And with you having such a unique mind and an ability to put words together, I think you'll get to the point if you continue to do it in a way that's um fluid. You'll get to the
mm-hmm.
point where there's a bunch of fucking people posting your shit too and like sharing it and shit like that. Because there's
Yeah,
like you have so many words. You the way that you put stuff into context, even though sometimes it can get like really long and drawn out.
mm-hmm.
It's a lot of the times it makes sense if you can make it concise. And
Yeah, yeah,
so I'm just waiting for the day that that happens.
yeah.
So
I'm learning how to reformulate it and kind of make it a little more eye catching.
yeah,
I have so many in my phone that I've honestly just kind of started to go back through my notes section
hmm
so that way I can give these thoughts some life, you know? And I'm going to put them into books of different kinds. So I'll have like quote books, a book of poetry, you know, different books that are a little more centered around different topics and written, you know, and
yeah,
formatted and around different prompts, you know, in different ways. And but I was like, while I'm waiting to do that, you know, because there's still aspects of like self-publishing that I need to research. So I do this in a way that I can actually spread it and at least deliver it to as many people as I can, because I feel like the value that these thoughts have given to me in my life, you know, have really helped me to evolve and to process a lot of really deep emotional shit. But the way that I kind of write about it is a little more broad and like philosophic. So that way people can kind of take it and then like just use it as a filter to view
Mhm.
their life, you know? Because you never know where you're gonna be at. And I think sometimes like mornings like today, it was like kind of one of those things where they say like that classic, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times,
Yeah.
but it's all at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So I was figuring out like I want to give something for everything and I don't want to let things go to waste. And I got so many years and years worth of backpack work, you know,
Mhm.
that some of it might just need a little bit of refining and updating um, from what I know now compared to what I knew then. But a lot of it is like kind of spot on. And I've started to look at it like I'm rather than being such a perfectionist, understanding that this will never truly be perfect. And so maybe what I was going through at that time is more relevant if I don't change it because it might get someone that's not where I'm at on the journey. And
Yeah.
it might connect with and help lead them to where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
you know?
And dude, like even if you take it back to something a little bit more simpler than like trying to be philosophical or inspirational to someone in terms of perfection, if you look at like Star Wars for example, right?
Mhm.
Um there are so many things that homie would change about George Lucas would change about the I forgot his name for a second. I was trying to remember it. Um
Just homie.
Yeah, I had to say homie for a second. But there's so many things that George Lucas himself has said on like interviews that he would change about it. And
Mhm.
so as far as like that goes, so many people see those as, maybe not perfect, but masterpieces in their own right. Even the creator
Mhm.
of those would be like, yeah, there's fucking shit I would change. I'm not happy with it. And that's kind of the mind of a creator in general is you're not always entirely happy with the product that you put out, even though you kind of have to call it done. And
Mhm.
in terms of what you're talking about, you saying that that's what you were experiencing in that moment is the most relevant thing, because what you're doing when you go back and edit something like that is you're editing it from the place that you are now, and so it
Yeah.
becomes a whole different quote, a whole different meaning behind it, and
Exactly.
it changes it all.
Bro, I fucking hate editing. I'm like, I wrote that shit right. And I know it because I felt it, you know. But
Fuck yeah.
sometimes I do look at little things like a word here or a word there, you know, or like how the verbiage might um I fuck around with different tenses,
Okay.
you know. So like first tense or past tense, future tense, or like I'll say you and then I'll say we.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
oftentimes that's because I'm talking about consciousness all being connected as one, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes I lose track of it in myself because I'm just trying to get this thought that's like energy is just like going through me while I'm writing it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I have to make sure my translation's okay. Um, but yeah, I'm just starting to finally just put that stuff out because really I just, I don't want to be overly influential on my work. I care more about the work being influential in other people's lives and being pure, you know?
Mhm.
Like I want to come through the way that God gives me it, you know? It's like this imagination just hits me and it's so fucking beautiful. That it's like I don't even want to take credit or like put any more of me on top of it. You know, I want it to be as raw and unfiltered as it can be. I just got to be the instrument to write it out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because really, I'm just trying to transcribe this energy, like this feeling that's like turning into sentences as I like go layer after layer into just feeling it, you know? And I think that's why a lot of what I write about and what I talk about is like deep, is because I'm really like navigating rabbit holes in like my
Uh,
mind through this like emotional journey.
yeah. I think a cool title for your spiritual podcast is The Scribe,
Mm, that's pretty dope.
transcribing it all. I think that's a cool series.
Yeah,
Because
we
that's
might
what
have
you
to do
are.
something for real.
Yeah. Because that's what, I mean, that's what you're describing, right? You're
Yeah,
getting these messages and these thoughts from somewhere that in your belief is not you technically, right? And you're giving it to the world, but it is you at the same time from what you
yeah.
believe, right?
Can't take me out of the
Yeah.
equation, but
No,
it's
you're
kind of like,
there, but
yeah,
it's coming from a place that you're not sure exactly where it's coming from.
yeah.
And
And
so,
sometimes, like sometimes it's like but I woke up in like a mood. It
mhm.
wasn't like I really chose this mood because realistically, it's like, and maybe it was a downer because I was just chilling with Snoop Dogg, right? So like, maybe it was natural, but like, you ever had those nights where it's like you didn't really dream anything and you wake up and it's before you really have time to like regurgitate yesterday's bullshit of like what happened to like make sense of where you are today? You know what I
So
mean? Like
yeah,
you
so
just,
like you have a little bit of time where it's all peaceful before all of that shit
yeah,
starts hitting you. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But it's like waking up and then it's not
It's
peaceful. That's
instantly not peaceful. It's like, what the fuck? This is bullshit. Yeah,
yeah,
I've been there too. I've woken up from dreams and I've like punched walls because of the dream. But I mean,
yeah.
that was when I was a kid. Woke up angry from a dream because of the dream. It was, yeah. I've had some pretty
See, those
wicked dreams.
those are the mornings where I'm like, that's me. That's more like that's my ego side. That's the anchor of me being held to like what I've already defined myself as, right?
Yeah,
But what I consider God, which is like the higher part of me, where my spirit really is, that like all that beauty comes from, is like this unrestricted, like clear, flowing, energetic, like vibrant state of being. It's just like light just pouring through you, you know? And I'm just trying to like somehow not bottle it,
yeah,
but get it packaged some way, like give it out. And I think the older I get and the more I start looking at it, the more I'm trying to like diversify what I put out, the many art forms. So it isn't just a podcast, it isn't just spoken word in this form, you know, which is why I'm moving into more like learning music and instruments, and learning how to do different forms of art so I can express it in a way where it's like words get clunky and they get old. Sometimes people aren't in the place for that. And so it's like, I feel it's my duty to kind of take that energy and put it in different, more palatable ways,
yeah,
so people can reach it because the level of like upliftment, you know, it's like beyond hope. It's like just, I just know it's way better than I can even conceive of it right now. By the time this energy that I'm feeling makes its way to me in a way that I can like kiss it or drive it or live in it, like it's gonna be way doper.
yeah.
Do you have any moments that stand out to it, like where you're like, yo, so much better than I ever could have imagined? You know, was it a chick? Was it a job? Was it a, opportunity to do something?
Um,
Hold on, we gotta go. Shout out to Big Cuz.
hey.
What's up, fellas?
um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of instances where I look at it and I think about how it was better than I expected, right? Um, I'm trying to think of like a good specific one, but
Is this a moment where we're gonna identify the new hoodlum? Is there a new hoodlum in our presence? Is shout out that completely pertains to this? Did I pitch my brother the greatest like underhanded throw of all time? Don't airball it. Yeah, baby.
Oh
That
shit.
that that's how you know the pride right there.
Um,
This is noble man that we're looking at in Zachary Sampson. I just want the world to know this. My brother is such an upstanding gentleman and so well vetted in his processing that he's like, there's some things like restraint is the greater part of valor. So we'll just keep going if you don't want to.
um, now you
I know
fucked
it's
me
real,
up, bro.
and so I know it's real.
Anyways,
Oh, is there a hoodlum in the mist?
oh, I had to take
My
off quick.
brother gave through it too.
um,
They moved.
but no, so like, there's been a lot of instances like that where I've been nervous because I'm an anxious person when it comes to things that come off or that happen without planning, right? And
Hard.
I know you've experienced this from me because it's just who I am. I like to have the plan ready to go and knowing what's gonna happen, and I don't like making plans last minute. Um, but there's been one of the biggest ones was when I went to Buffalo, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
told you about that story. I've spoke about it a little bit on the podcast, but going to meet my girl, that was one I was fucking nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And it had only legit, bro. Talked about it on a Friday. I flew out on a Monday, so there was no planning really. It just was like, hey, let's do this. We did it, and then it happened. And from that moment, it was just like it was one of the realizations of like, hey, just kind of do shit, right? You don't always
Mm-hmm.
need to plan it out. And I've had a lot of those realizations in my life too. And trying to be a little bit more free with the things that I do in life, and being open and willing to have those things happen, um,
Yeah.
has
It
been
sounds like she
huge.
kicked. Yeah, well, she drop kicked what you thought your system was like perfectly balanced, and then you realize that freedom was like equally balancing, you know. And I think that's really what like companionship, and friendship and relationship in total really affords us, you
Yeah.
know. But there's something special, like when that's your person, and she just comes along, or he, if you're a girl, it's got to be like this, I suppose. But all I know is like when you're like a logic driven man, like because as kind of like off the wall as I may seem and out there, I'm actually like very formulaic, and like I consider myself like a divine strategist, right?
Okay.
But right, like I, I'm telling you, like it really when I was on my player shit, it was like a formula. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I was like, say this, they say this. Everything was structured and calculated. And then it's like that fucking Miley Cyrus song, Wrecking Ball, where it's
Oh
like
fuck.
everything that I thought was like making sense was like all my standards of like my how I normally do shit. I realized were completely irrelevant to the value of this experience. And for me to not experience this would be like throwing away potentially the greatest journey that I'll ever take in my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that I have someone that wants to take this with me, you know, is just there aren't words for it. It's just a you know.
It's warming for sure. It it brings a different type of person out of you, and
Mm-hmm.
it
Do you
makes.
feel like a
Do I feel like a
sorry?
better man?
Yeah.
I feel like I want to be a better man.
Ooh, damn! I just got wet. I'm just.
Like
Woo!
there's when just in general, but specifically in relationships, when you find someone that's really worth it, they make you want to be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not, I mean, yeah, being better for them is awesome, but the type of person that um, inspires you and pushes you to be better for you is like a whole different ball game,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you even happier to be with them. Um, and yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. I don't know that I've had that yet, but I've had love that's so deep there aren't words there, and you know, girl be like, "Save yourself," and I'd be like, "No, fuck my life up. I don't even care." And then,
Fuck, I ain't fucking shit up, bro. It's either getting better or, or it ain't happening.
bro, but it's the truth, like that was where I was at, and now I think there's like a healthier way to do it, and it's not that like we were bad. We might have both just been in bad places within ourselves where we hadn't matured out of. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like the timing.
But yeah,
Yeah,
but it seems like in the grand scheme, the timing's never off. And like
for sure.
I- I've had such a miraculous life experience, full of literally like life and death,
Wild shit.
moment. Yeah, yeah. Of me being saved and me saving other people. Like really, um, I wouldn't trade it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
But
real.
definitely not always been um the easiest path to walk. And there's a lot of things that I'm still learning how to navigate from that, from my journey thus far.
Hmm.
And what I'm intrigued about is how much more creative I'm getting,
Yeah.
you know, like because of that. And it's something where it's like, it's like when you train in one area and somehow learning that skill is transferable in ways that you totally didn't even know. Um, but I think processing like emotion, or like not even really processing, like being willing to feel it, you know, is like a superpower. Because if you sit in emotion long enough, something's gonna come out of it.
Hmm.
And learning how to like, I guess yeah, processing emotion, because I think about it like transmuting it, like you're sitting in this feeling and it's like and maybe this isn't a good example, but like Nirvana, right? That was like something beautiful that was made out of like fucking miserable hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the most beautiful woman that I've ever met and loved and still love, has also been through more hell than I can like ever imagine, And it's
Hmm.
like there's something about pain that makes people great, you know? Gives them texture.
Yeah. I can relate to that pretty heavily, for sure.
How so? Like give me some examples.
Well, the
Like
exact same example in essence, just maybe toned down a little bit because the life
well,
experiences were a little different. Um, but in essence, like in comparison, like generally the same I don't know how to explain it.
How'd you feel before you met your girl? How do you feel after? Like, if you were to describe yourself to someone else, like third person, omnipresent, Zach Sampson before, and then Zach Sampson after. You got third person and first person, knowing what you were feeling at the time. So I guess it's kind of a fucked up, convoluted Kemper question.
Before
Yeah.
before I felt like I was just going through motions. I felt like the same thing every day was happening. Um, I would wake up and never really feel like, um, even though I did have purpose, right? I've assigned purpose to myself in my life. Um, I didn't feel it for a long time. Um, and even when I did, I never fully understood why I had assigned myself that purpose or why I was driven so hard. Like I never thought about it. Um, and then on top of that, everybody gets lonely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with my specific relationship history, there's been a lot of times where I've just had a lot of long spans of loneliness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's been a common theme in my life, especially with my eyes and not really being able to drive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there would be times, like for example, during the summer, as I was growing up in college, um, all my family members would be working out of the house, and I would be the only one at the house, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't leave. I couldn't. I was basically just. I had to stay inside or go outside and walk around. And so,
Mm-hmm.
having lived in like a really secluded place, there wasn't a whole lot you could do. Um, and so, growing up, it was a lot of loneliness, as like a reoccurring theme. Even in college, there was a lot of loneliness because I would end up getting to college like 2 hours before any of my classes started because I had to get a ride with someone who was
Mm-hmm.
going to work. So I would sit in the library or outside of the classroom alone. The first year before I would really like made friends in college, it was I would leave class, go to the library for lunch, and just sit in there alone or walk around alone, right? Um, and that was actually the first year, and then the first year of the film program where we met. Probably,
Mm-hmm.
well, I would say probably the first 4 months, of the film program, and then so that's been a really like big overarching theme of my life. But
Mm-hmm.
after I feel like I'm able to identify why my purpose is my purpose, I can identify why I want to be better. You know, even if it wasn't for the relationship itself, I'm realizing that, um, there are reasons to be better for myself as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and improving in that, there's a lot to company on its own, right? A lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
especially like introverts and everything like that, a lot of introverts will really lean into that introverted mentality and be like, "Oh, I don't need to be around people." But what
Mm-hmm.
what I've realized is that there is a type of vitality that you get from being around people.
Mm-hmm.
And having been evolving as human beings in tribes in small groups and having connection with human beings in constant contact, we're not built to be secluded. And when you do seclude yourself, you do go crazy and you lose something, right? That's why you see people like, um what was his name? Ted Kaczynski, I think is his name.
That is,
The
but yeah, go on.
the Unabomber. I don't think that's his name. But
Uh,
he went up into the mountains and he was alone and he just went crazy and he started doing all this crazy shit and he hated everything, right? When you seclude yourself, you allow too much of what we're not to seep in.
well, also, all your thoughts kind of seem real to you.
Yeah,
You know what I
because you have
mean?
no
Like,
one to
I don't,
check it.
yeah, like when and sometimes it's just like reality, like life existing and literally like other people. When you talk about like an example, right?
Yeah.
It's like the universe, like uh, people give you another example to like reality check yourself with. So like when I was like super depressed,
Mm-hmm.
like if I just stayed in my room all day, my day would be like fucked up. Like, and it seemed so real
Fucking
to me.
sucks.
But then it's like I I would just leave my house to go to the store, and this is why I came up with that method of like no matter how sad you are, like go to the store. And I wouldn't keep food in my house, so I had to go to the store
Yeah.
to at least have one interaction per day. But on the way to the store, like I would see, and you know what? Shout out to moms that take the bus with their kids with groceries and everything. Like I can't tell you how many like black and Mexican like super powerful, like they're like super women,
Yeah.
that I would see with two little kids in the rain carrying, with a stroller, a little kid and groceries. And they probably just had work today. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they're out there, and I'm sitting here driving to the store, sad because I'm alone. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's like a reality check
You
in and
know,
of itself.
and another
Yeah.
example of that same thing, right? Um, I've been carrying my cane a lot more. Pretty much every time I leave my house now I have it. Um, uh, and that's been something that's really hard for me to like kind of deal with and process. I've worked past it now. I'm pretty comfortable with it. Um,
Mhm.
but it was something that was really hard for me to have to accept and come to terms with. Um,
Mhm.
but the other day, I think it was yesterday, I was sitting on the bus on my way home from the gym, and I get on the bus, and I sit in like the back ish area, like the back like 6 seats area
Mhm.
somewhere. There's this
Yeah, that's the
kid,
clutch
yeah,
for the homeless people.
yeah,
On.
but when I get on the bus, it's always empty, so I'm chilling. Um,
Yeah, good.
but I get on this,
So.
I sit down, I throw my backpack, I fold my cane up, and I look, and to my left is this kid with a lunchbox, and he has a crutch,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, oh, he has a broken leg or something. I didn't look, um, and I'm just chilling on the bus, looking at my phone, looking up, looking at people, watching them, and then it gets to his bus stop. He gets off, and I see that his leg, he's crippled,
Mhm.
right? His leg dangles for the most part. Um,
Mhm.
and like he can touch the ground with his toes, but I don't really think he could put weight on it. And so he's
Mhm.
carrying this lunchbox that's like the size of his torso, and he's hobbling down the street with one crutch and one good leg.
Mhm.
And I start thinking, I'm like, I can't see that great, but at least I can do the things that I enjoy doing, which is fitness and stuff like that. And I started feeling more grateful for the things that I do have because
Mhm.
and this is always that same like thing. It's like, well, always someone always kind of has it worse, but when you think about it, it's not necessarily like, oh yeah, just because someone has it worse doesn't mean what you're going through isn't bad. But it's not supposed to be like, oh, it's not supposed to invalidate what you're going through. It's supposed to help you realize what you're grateful for. Um,
Yeah.
and I think when we start understanding that being grateful and realizing like the hard shit you're going through is hard shit. But when we start to identify and list out the things we're grateful for in our life in direct contrast of what is going on in your life, it's a really easy way to kind of pull yourself out, even if you're not pulling yourself out all the way, right? Let's say you're deep into depression. Just listing out the things that you're grateful for may not pull you out of it, but it may get you out of bed and get you to the store, right? And so
Mhm.
it's not like it's gonna make everything, perfect and rainbows and unicorns, but I think it's a really good start to pulling yourself to your feet. And
And
yeah.
I was gonna say, I also look at that is it's almost like I had this realization, kind of actually pretty recently, like, because I was observing a similar type situation, and I was like, how trippy is it that, like, because I was like, I don't want to give this person like sympathy,
Hmm.
right? Like, I really want to honor this person as a whole person. I don't want to see them as less than whole.
Yeah.
And so, like, I took that stance, and I kind of was like, fuck, my body may be perfectly fine, right? But and like this person's body like might have a hindrance to it, right? An
Hmm.
inability inherent to it. But this person's engine, like their soul, like what got that person and gets that person out of bed, out of their house and keeps them going, like that's next level,
Yeah.
right? We only like muscles as buff, but like the spirit and the mind of that individual is like they're not crippled at all.
No.
They got that V12 twin turbo supercharged crazy shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
And
the
there's go ahead, sorry.
no, go for it.
Um
Riff.
there was well there is a coworker of mine. He has a stutter. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things like that I've never well, I've heard it before, but I've never before I knew this fact, I never did
Mm-hmm.
it. Like when you talk to someone with a stutter, you don't want to like try to help them with the word,
Mm.
right? You kind of just want them, you want to like give them the chance to like work through it, right? And
Yeah.
speech therapists will tell you that kind of things like, hey, don't try and like correct the word or give them the word or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and this coworker, he's Turkish. He's fucking awesome. First of all, he's like 19 years old, and some of the conversations I've had with him and some of the stories he shared with me, he has one of the most positive and bright souls that I've ever like came into contact to with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had to tell him like so much so I've had to tell him. I'm like, "Yo, dude, like you're a good fucking dude. Don't change for
Mm-hmm.
anything unless it's to make you better." And he's fucking amazing. He's shared like he lives at home with his parents and his other relatives, siblings, I'm assuming, and stuff like that. And he's brought like their homemade Turkish food to the
Mm-hmm.
gym and shared it with people. And I've now having home cooked meals from Reno, your stepdad,
Mm-hmm.
is one thing. But when you had like I don't know what the difference is, but this food, Kemper,
It's got soul in it.
it has soul. And it has
Mhm.
like all homemade food has love. But there's something else in this food that this kid brings. And he's legit said like um he left the gym for like a week because he was
Mm-hmm.
starting a new job, but then he realized he wanted to come back on as well. But
Mm-hmm.
he he said when he was leaving to just text him if I ever wanted food from his family. I'm like, that's fucking awesome, dude. Cause he
Mm-hmm.
is there's this Euro place that like smells
Yeah.
amazing with bread that's right next to my apartment. and apparently
Euro House.
one of his family members works there. So he
Mm-hmm.
comes over here all the time anyways. And so I'm like, dude, this is fucking amazing. And
Yeah.
he's one like what you were saying, just a bright soul that has gone through stuff that's just amazing and then different.
Now I'm gonna just be ignorant for a second and say, don't you ever fucking disrespect my family's food.
I wasn't because Reno and your mom, they cook some of the best food I've ever had
Yeah.
on a
My
consistent
cousin Frank,
basis.
and like, look, we make euros too, but I will say, look, there's a difference, all right, and this is the difference that I've learned, okay,
Okay.
because for real, being grateful, right?
Yeah.
When you honor something, like you're really transferring your consciousness to these chemical compositions, right? And I know this because I've been eating consecrated food at the temple that I've been going to on Sundays when I go and study the Bhagavad Gita,
Mm-hmm. What's
right?
consecrated food for anyone who doesn't know, including myself?
So, like the Swami that lives at the Vedanta Society and at like temples, right? They don't eat any food that hasn't been prayed for. It's
Okay.
purified through prayer, right?
Okay.
And so there's this family that comes, that's an Indian family, and they came this last Sunday when I was there, and they make this food, and it's a part of their devotion, right?
Okay.
It's a part of their offering, because what can you offer God in the physical, right? He doesn't really need it. It's the context of your spirit, of what you give to it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you put your soul into it, right? And then you share that, right? And it's so big that it's like, what could make God happier than you sharing that with his other children? You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when I eat this food, right, I feel so good. It's like next level, you know? And I really think it's the way in which you prepare it, you know? And when you look at like other families, right, there's a reason why people that immigrate to the US, you know, oftentimes it will be like 12 people living in one house, right?
Yeah.
But what comes out of that, right? That's an investor mind state, you know? And it's all this grateful, like, we're here. Like, we made it already. Like, we already made it, right?
Yeah.
And so everything from there, just, it's exponential the way that it goes up, because it's just the energy with it. That devotion is just next level. And I think that we miss that, um, because this goes back to that whole Dale Comstock. It ain't what to think, it's how to think, right?
Yeah. The I
It's
am
not,
type shit.
yeah, bro, it's who you become as you journey in this way, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and how you be and who you are moment to moment to moment, you know? And it's not just about like getting your Ferrari and having a complete arrogance to it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like knowing that you got this and also honoring that you have it, you know? And like, what would be better than having a Ferrari and also being like, not only do I get to drive this around, tell other people they could get them, but like my homies get to try it too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, try this shit, you know? Like, it's shared, it's a shared experience, you know? And being a part of that communal thing is like different. And I think that's really like, that's why relationship personally is also like its own unique community. I was listening to Steve Harvey talk one time, and he said, form hands, like grab your girl's hand, and you guys are hand in hand. Don't let nobody come in between this circle.
I've seen that. I've seen that video too recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
And essentially what he was talking about was like what's going on in your relationship is what's going on
Mm-hmm.
in your relationship, and it stays there. Shouldn't be talking
Mm-hmm.
about it to, you know, like everyone are complaining about it to everybody and shit like that. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of ways, like that's perfectly okay. Like I agree with that in terms of like legitimate issues that are going on in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Um, but I think that there's things that you should be able to talk about to other people in terms of like your anxieties with it, right?
Mm.
Because we all have things that we worry about, and even though we may communicate those with our partner, um, being able to communicate those anxieties and those concerns with someone else, they may be able to give you uh, a piece of advice that might help you feel a little bit better and like process it a little bit differently.
Yeah,
Because I've gone through that shit
the nu-
myself too. So, um,
I
but
think
yeah,
the nuance to what he was kind of saying though is like when you're having that sharing, do it almost from like a very general or like kind of, I don't want to say vague place, but
yeah,
like not a blameful place, but an
exactly.
owner place, you know?
Yeah,
And from there, it's constructive rather than destructive, and it doesn't change the way anyone else views the integrity of the relationship. You
yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Like I feel like this, not they made me feel like this type shit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I get what you, yeah, 100%. I pretty much agree with what he was saying. It makes
Mm-hmm.
1,000 times sense. I don't know what the fuck I was trying to say right there, but makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can dig it. Well, you know what, man? We did about an hour, and I know you got your girl there because shout out to her feet making a guest appearance, wiggling on the bed from time to time, and you can tell her that once we're off there.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to meet her. And I just want you to have fun. I got family to go and kick it with,
Oh yeah,
and
dude.
so I love you, bro.
I love you too. Have a good time with your
Mm-hmm.
family because, I mean, you don't need a reminder of how point of important family is, but it's important.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoy it. And I know you don't need that, but I'm gonna tell you anyways.
No, that's just to keep it in check. All right. Until next week, everybody. Peace.
Later. Bada bing.